Good afternoon, YouTube. It's Tony the Lakeland biker again. Still buzzing around on the R65 because I'm trying to get as many miles on it as I can before the Welsh this weekend. Although she is definitely starting to run much better now. So, the election's on Thursday. And not wanting to sound like a cynic, but it doesn't matter which one gets in, it's going to be essentially the same shit, different colour. As most cyclists, they're going to try and fuck us. All of them, because as I pointed out in my last video about standing together, they don't like us and we're an anachronism on the roads. And what with some of the current legislation they're trying to push through in the United States about doing away with home mechanics and stuff like that, quite scary. I suggest you look it up. It came through on the latest copy of Network. Like the likelihood of it being implemented is very, very low, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on. So yes, where was I? Yeah, politicians. Basically, they're all going to be dishonest to one degree or another. Nick Clegg at the last election was dishonest for perhaps a good reason. He completely and utterly sunk any trust or belief I have in him being, or the Liberal Democrats being honest, and I'll probably vote Liberal Democrat again this time. More for my local MP, Tim Farron, who's a really nice guy. But to get back to Nick Clegg, he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. The country's economy was going down the shitter faster than last night's Vindaloo. The majority of the population had voted for Dave. Nice boy Dave. Nice boy Dave. Comes over as an ordinary chap, Dave. He's not an ordinary chap, he went to fucking Eton. So anyway, Cameron got into bed with the devil. But if he hadn't have got into bed with the devil, it would have been Gordon Brown and the failed Labour government. And the majority of the population had voted for a change, and the country needed governmental stability to give us financial stability. So Nick Clegg did a deal with the devil. As simple as that. Basically, he sold out himself and his political beliefs for the country. That's actually quite altruistic. However, I do think 18 months ago, when the economy was starting to improve, the Liberal Democrats should perhaps have stopped supporting some of the more extreme Tory party proposals. That's my own personal belief. I think they should have started abstaining. But that's beside the point. You know, if they'd gone for the financial stability and supported them on financial matters and nothing else, fine. I wouldn't really have had that much objection to what Nick Clegg did, but he didn't. So yeah, he was altruistic on one hand, but on the other hand he was incredibly selfish because he likes the power. And any politician who says they don't like the attention and all the perks which come with being a member of Parliament is telling porky pies. Of course they do. You know, how many jobs can you get which you've got the sort of golden parachute you get from being an MP? It's, you know, it's a fact of life. If I was in their situation, I have no doubt I would be the same. I hope I would be able to resist it, but I'm a human being, and a human being is fallible. I do think my own beliefs would stop me crawling into bed with the likes of Murdoch, but who knows? Because anyone who goes into politics is a prostitute at heart. Well, that's my opinion anyway. Certainly if they're going into politics to become a successful politician, there are exceptions to that rule, I know, but I'm deliberately generalising here. So I don't trust politicians, and I don't think anyone else should really. Most of them would probably sell their own mothers if it gave them a political advantage. Sorry about the image being a bit out of focus. My camera fell off my lid the other day and I've got a tiny scratch on the lens, I think. Hopefully I'll have my new lens before Friday, the Welsh, but that's by the by. I do apologise for that. So like I say, most politicians are at heart dishonest. And I don't mean dishonest in dipping the hands in the till, although let's face it, with the cash for questions, MPs' expenses, etc, 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 they're about as financially responsible as a banker. So they're not starting from a particularly good baseline, politicians at the moment, and I dearly hope that the new crop of politicians who come into Parliament will consider what Kennedy said about that's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Because we are electing these people to represent us, not themselves. And that's the key point. They're not there to represent themselves. They're not there to bang their own drum. They're there to do what's best for us. And if they don't do what's best for us, then we should kick them out. And I think any of the politicians who get accused of corruption or anything like that should automatically be suspended pending an investigation, regardless of who they are. And those investigations shouldn't be done behind closed doors. It should all be open and above board. And I believe that's right for any public service. And make no bones about it, folks, politicians are public servants. In terms of their status, they work for us in the same way that a dustman works for us, or a doctor works for us, or a nurse works for us, assuming they're within the state system, which is getting harder and harder to tell with what David Cameron and his boys have done. But yeah, essentially politicians, they are public servants. They're elected civil servants. And getting a seat in Parliament should not be a tenure for life. You know, the greatest honour you can bestow on someone is to represent your country. And that's what politicians are. That's what your Member of Parliament is. They are a representative of their country. So make sure you pick the best people for it. Right. That's it. I probably won't bash another one out before the election. But if I do crack one out, hope you all watch it. Hope you enjoyed what I had to say today. And if you didn't, tell me anyway.